back to it. I want to echo Evan's thoughts this morning, giving us, the elders giving us this opportunity to speak to you, having us enough trust in us to let us speak to you. Tonight, I'm going to speak to you about the beginning of David's life, at least what we're introduced to. 1 Samuel 16 through 19, and then a psalm that he wrote, Psalm 59. In Evan's sermon, he's made a point about whenever we're looking at somebody's life and we're looking at the blessings and trying to, and we're almost envying that, to look at the other things that God has going on in their lives. So tonight, with David's life, I actually kind of want to do that. It's kind of a good segue that, we often look at things God did for David and the blessings and like, he's a man after God's own heart and all the good things. I want to kind of look at the things that David went through that we don't often look at. So I want to pick up where God has just rejected Saul as king. Saul was supposed to destroy the Amalekites completely off the face of the earth. And he kept with the people a bunch of sheep and oxen, the choice animals, and he let their king stay alive. And God rejected Saul because of that. And because of that, God was going to name a new king. And so we see God telling Samuel after the rejection of Saul to go to Jesse in Bethlehem. And there he was going to choose his new king. And that is where we first are told to look at David's life. That's the first place we see David. So Samuel gets there and he tells Jesse, I want you to line up all of your sons. And he's going to consecrate them. And so Jesse does that. He lines up all of his sons, youngest to oldest. And Jesse looks at the first one. Samuel looks at the first one, and it's Eliab. And he's like, surely this is going to be the one that God chooses. He is a good-looking man. He looks big and strong. He looks like what a king should look like. And God told him, nope, that's not the one. You see, Samuel, I don't look at the outward appearance. I'm not looking at what man is looking at. I'm looking at the heart. So he goes down the line, he goes to the next one. Nope, God rejects him. Goes to the next one, rejects him. Looks at the first 7. That's who's there. 7 children of Jesse, 7 sons. And God rejects every single one of them. And so Samuel goes to Jesse, is this all of your sons? Because God said it's going to be one of your sons. And he's like, well, no, we actually have one. I'm inserting this a little bit. He's a shepherd boy. He's out tending the sheep. He's out keeping the sheep. And he's not here. He wasn't invited. They didn't think enough of David. They didn't think that God would choose the youngest, the runt, the little shepherd boy. They didn't think he would be chosen as king. So he wasn't invited to this lineup. So Samuel tells them, well, you need to send somebody to go get him. And so they waited. They sat and waited while they went and got David. That's how little they thought of him. That's this little runt. They overlooked him. There's no way that God could choose David, the little youngest son, our youngest sibling. They can't. God's not going to choose him. No way. So when David arrives, the text tells us that he is ruddy and handsome in appearance. And God tells Samuel, that's the one. That's the one that we're going to go with. That's who I'm going to appoint as king. And then Samuel anoints him as the king. The next scene that we see is kind of a little bit peculiar. Saul is stricken with a spirit, an evil spirit, that makes him depressed and angry, and he starts to seek somebody that can help him. And his servants tell him, well, why don't you get somebody to play the lyre for you? I know somebody. He's one of the sons of Jesse. He can come and play, and that's going to help you feel better. It's going to make you feel better. So they go and get the son of Jesse. And what they say about the son of Jesse is he is one who's skilled, but it says he's a man of valor. He is a man of war, who's prudent in speech, and a man of good presence. And the Lord is with him. And that son of Jesse is David. So David comes, and I just want you to think about a man of valor, a man of war. Is that often how we think about little young David? A man of valor, a man of war. Is that even how his family thought about him? But that's how they describe him to King Saul. So Saul comes, or David comes, and he starts playing. And he's alternating. Sometimes he's keeping the sheep, but now Saul's not feeling too well, so he comes and he plays for him. And he makes Saul feel better. And he goes back and tends the sheep. He's just going back and forth, playing for Saul and keeping the sheep for his family. The next, in chapter 17 of 1 Samuel, we go to and we see a scene where the Philistines and the armies, Saul's armies, are gathered together for war. They're gathered together for a battle, and there's a giant, big valley in between them. And the Philistines send what they call a champion, a warrior, out. And this warrior is 9.5 feet tall. He's got big armor, big weapons. It's a terrifying sight. Terrifying. Obviously, we know this giant, this warrior, to be Goliath. But he goes out day after day into the valley in front of the armies of Saul and challenges them. He says, Judah, if you send a warrior out here to fight me, and that warrior beats me, well, then all of Philistine will serve Judah. But if I defeat your warrior, then Judah will serve the Philistines. And he does this every day, every morning, day after day, for 40 days. Goes out there and challenges them. And day after day, Saul and the army, all of them, were afraid. They refused to go out there and fight them. There's this big, terrifying giant Goliath. They're all afraid. 3 of David's brothers, Eliab and the 3 eldest, were all there. There are 3 of them who are afraid day after day, but they're there ready to fight if they actually go to war. David, he's out keeping the sheep. He's out being the shepherd boy. Jesse has the idea to send David with a care package for his brothers and for the commanders, and to check on them to see how they're doing. They don't really know what's going on. He wants to go check on his brothers and see how they're doing and give them some things. So David goes the next morning, and when he arrives, the picture is that he sees his brothers, he drops all of the supplies off, and he hightails it to his brothers. He runs to them. He's happy to see them. He's like, oh, there's my brothers. They're doing good. They're alive. He runs to them. But as he is running to them, Goliath makes his way to that valley. And Goliath demands his challenge again. And David hears this. And David stops, listens. He goes back, and all the people around him, and he asks them, who does this guy think he is? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? This uncircumcised Philistine that defies the armies of God. Not Saul's army. Who defies the armies of God? So Saul asked this question. Everybody else for 40 days has been afraid. They haven't said anything. Saul hasn't said anything. David gets here, hears it at one time, and is like, who is this guy? Who is this 9.5-foot giant? Who is he? And the people around him, there's several different responses that they give. And I want you to notice the different responses of those who hear this question. The first one is his brother, his oldest brother, Eliab. Remember, Eliab's this big guy who people think looks kingly. Samuel's like, surely that's the guy. That's the guy that's going to lead us. Eliab's response is to accuse him of evil intent. Who did you leave the sheep with? Remember, it was Jesse's idea to send him, not David's. He's like, I know your evil heart. You just want to come and see this battle. He talks down to him. He has no trust in his brother. His idea is, what are you, a little shepherd boy, doing here at this battle? Why are you asking questions like that? Who do you think you are? That's Eliab's response. Eventually, the question makes its way to Saul, and David gets in Saul's presence. And remember, Saul knows who David is because David's playing for him, making him feel better. So he asks that question and tells Saul, I'm going to go fight Goliath. Let me go fight him. Saul essentially just laughs in his face like, dude, you're the guy who plays the lyre for me. Like, who? You think you're going to go fight this 9.5-foot giant? How can you fight a little giant? You're nothing, man. He then tells him no. David says again, God's going to be with me. God's going to deliver me. Let me go fight him. So Saul's like, all right, I'll let you go. Here's my armor. Here's all my weapons. And the text tells us that David, he can't even move. He can't do anything with that armor. And the picture I get is the one of, Feifel. He's got all these like clothes that are just hanging off of him. That's kind of the picture I get. It's just way too big for him. There's no way. So David's like, I can't use this stuff. Takes it off, gives it back to Saul, and he just starts going, all right, that feels good. Picks up 5 stones, puts them in his pocket, gets his shepherding staff, gets his sling, and he's like, all right, I'm ready for battle. I'm ready to go out there. And like, all right, go ahead, buddy. David walks out there into the valley. Goliath is there just waiting on somebody. 40 days, he's waiting on somebody to come. Goliath thinks this is an insult. Who do y'all think I am? Some kind of dog that you're going to send this little boy to me with sticks? Think I'm going to go play fetch or something? Who is this little guy? Goliath laughs at David. And David says, I have the Lord on my side. I'm going to cut your head off. I got a sling and a staff, but I'm going to kill you. And of course, we know the story. David gets that sling, slings one rock, hits him right in the forehead. Goliath falls. David cuts his head off. Philistines start running. Judah follows after him, strikes them all down. Goliath is dead. David is the conquering hero. Little shepherd boy kills the giant. The faith that David shows when he says, the Lord will deliver me. I'm going to cut your head off. It's mighty big words for a little shepherd boy. Somebody who nobody else trusts. Brother thinks he's got evil intent. Saul laughs at him. Goliath laughs at him. Dad doesn't think he's even good enough to put in the lineup to be king. After that, it tells us about David's friendship with Jonathan. Jonathan being the heir to the throne. Saul's oldest son. They become best of friends. And it says David is successful in battles. He's just out there and he's just killing everything. And all the people of Judah and Israel, all of Saul's servants, it says it was all good in their sight. But it doesn't mention Saul. It doesn't say it was good in the sight of Saul. You see, Saul was over there getting jealous. Who is this guy that's killing all these people? He's getting jealous and angry towards all of David's success. But it all comes to a head after one particular battle. When he comes back, and all the ladies, they're singing, Saul has struck down his thousands, but David has struck down his 10,000. They love David. Saul's angry. And at the time, David is still, even though he's fighting these battles, still tending the sheep, he's still playing for David. Every time Saul gets this evil spirit, David's there. He's playing for him, making him feel better. This time, David's playing for him, trying to make him feel better. Saul's sitting there with his spear that it says he always has. And all of a sudden, Saul chucks it at David. Misses. Chucks it again at David. Misses. David eludes him twice. Says he's trying to pin him to the wall. He's trying to kill him. He's trying to impale him, trying to kill David. This guy who's won all these battles, who slew the giant for him. Saul's trying to kill him. Happens twice. David runs from him. And Saul at that time then says, all right, I can't have you playing for me anymore, but what I'm gonna do for you, David, I'm gonna set you as a commander over 1,000 people so you can just go and fight the Philistines all the time. Saul's idea is, if I set him up over this and he's fighting enough, eventually, those Philistines will kill David. Eventually, he'll die. He hoped to kill him. But the Lord is with David. David has even more success. And with that success, there comes 2 more plots against David's life. First plot, Saul has a daughter, Merab, who's ready of age, ready to be married. David says, Saul says, here, David, if you go ahead and keep fighting the Philistines, keep destroying them like you have been, and you keep doing that good for me, I'm going to give you my daughter in marriage. I'm going to allow you to be my son-in-law. David's like, I'm not sure about that. I'm not worthy of that. But Saul says, no, it's going to happen. So, of course, David, with God behind him, continues to do that. But when it comes time for him to give him his daughter, he gives his daughter to someone else. He betrays David. He betrays his oath. So now his daughter is married to someone else. In time, he finds out that another daughter loves David. Loves David. So he's like, okay, David, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give you my daughter in marriage. All you have to do is go kill 100 Philistines and bring me their foreskins. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just 100. David says, okay, I'm still not worthy, but I'll go and do this for you so I can get your daughter in marriage. Instead of killing 100, David comes and kills 200. Brings those foreskins, bam, there you go. There's your price, Saul. And Saul this time, all right, you can have my daughter in marriage. And part of me in my head is I'm like, what kind of father-in-law, son-in-law relationship is that where the father-in-law really actually is trying to kill the son-in-law? A little bit of dysfunction there. At this point, Jonathan and David have a little bit of a conversation, and David's like, your dad's trying to kill me, man. Like, I don't know what's going on, your dad's trying to kill me. Jonathan's like, no, he's not, but I'll go ahead and talk to him. I'll talk to my dad and see what's going on. And so Jonathan goes and reminds his dad, look, Dad, you might have a little bit of anger towards him, but remember, this is the guy who used to play for you. This is the guy who slew Goliath for you. This is the guy that has been killing Philistines left and right for you. All this good he has done for you. Why are you trying to kill him? And Saul actually has a moment, and he's like, you know what? You're right, Jonathan. You're right. I'll give you an oath that I'm not going to kill David. I'm not going to kill him. And so he invites David to come back and start playing for him again, and invites him back into his presence. Well, next battle, David's successful again, kills more Philistines, and this angers Saul. And so David's inside playing for Saul again. Saul again has his spear, gets angry, looks at David, stand aside. Throws that spear at him again, tries to kill him again. David this time runs out of the house, runs out of there, runs back to his house, which to me is not the smartest place to go because you're running from your father-in-law. He knows where your house is. He can just easily go to where your house is. He knows. If you're trying to hide from him, that's a terrible place to go. But that's where he goes. His wife is there. He hides in the house, and he is surrounded by Saul's men. Saul sends all of his men, surrounds the house. Wait till the morning, kill him. Their instructions are to kill David in the morning. So I want you to remember this and think about the picture of what David is doing right now. He's hiding in his house. And all the things that have happened to David, he's been overlooked by his father. He's been, his brothers think the worst of him. They think nothing of him. He's just a little shepherd boy. He's been laughed at by Saul. He's been mocked by Goliath. Saul, his king, his father-in-law, has attempted to kill him multiple times with multiple plots. If you go do this, I'll give you whatever. Saul, I think he's going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter. David's sitting in his house thinking of all the stuff that's going on. And he writes this psalm, Psalm 59. Go ahead and read that. This is what David writes while he's sitting in his house hiding from Saul's men. Psalm 59. Deliver me from my enemies, O my God. Protect me from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from those who work evil, and save me from bloodthirsty men. For behold, they lie in wait for my life. Fierce men stir up strife against me. For no transgression or sin of mine, O Lord. For no fault of mine they run and make ready. Awake, come to meet me and see. You, Lord of God of hosts, are God of Israel. Rouse yourself to punish all the nations. Spare none of those who treacherously plot evil. Each evening they come back, howling like dogs and prowling about the city. There they are, bellowing with their mouths, with swords in their lips. For who, they think, will hear us? But you, O Lord, laugh at them. You hold all the nations in derision, O my strength. I will watch for you. For you, O God, are my fortress. My God in his steadfast love will meet me. God will let me look in triumph on my enemies. Kill them not, lest my people forget. Make them totter by your power and bring them down, O Lord, our shield. For the sin of their mouths, the words of their lips, let them be trapped in their pride. For the cursing and lies that they utter, consume them in wrath, consume them till they are no more, that they may know what God rules over Jacob to the ends of the earth. Each evening they come back, howling like dogs and prowling about the city. They wander about for food and growl if they do not get their fill. But I will sing of your strength. I will sing aloud of your steadfast love in the morning. For you have been to me a fortress and a refuge in the day of my distress. O my strength, I will sing praises to you. For you, O God, are my fortress, the God who shows me steadfast love. This is what David writes. He's sitting in his house, people surrounded, trying to kill him, ready to kill him and strike. There's two things I want to point out about what David does here. First, he turns to God. There's a recognition that even if others, his dad who's overlooking him, his brothers who think little of him, Saul's trying to kill him, Goliath mocked him, even if they don't care, even if they don't see who David is, even if they don't care about his life and think nothing of him, don't want him, he recognized that God's love does. God does want him. God does recognize him. Others think David is just a shepherd boy. Others think David is nothing. But God has anointed him king over Israel. God has chosen him. God has appointed him. God has shown him steadfast love and delivered him many times. It says that God, David says, God was his fortress. The end of the psalm, O my strength, I will sing praises to you. For you, O God, are my fortress. David recognizes that even when everybody else is against him, nobody cares for him, nobody's looking out for him, he still has God on his side. He still has God. That is where his fortress is. That is where his refuge is. It doesn't matter what anybody in this world thinks of him. It doesn't matter that everybody is lined up against him to take his life, to make fun of him, to laugh and mock him. God is his fortress. His worth is not wrapped up in what people think of him. It doesn't matter if it's his father, his brothers, his king, enemies. It doesn't matter what they think of him. His worth is wrapped up in God's love. His worth is wrapped up in knowing that God is there for him, that God loves him. The second point is that this is a prayer. It's a song that was sung, but David writes this as a prayer to God. David, when he is surrounded by his enemies, goes to God and writes a prayer. Surrounded by evil people looking to take his life, he sits down and writes a psalm, writes a prayer to God. He sits down and he writes his thoughts out. And I know many of us might not be as inclined as David is to write beautiful poems. Probably none of us are. But that's a good example for us to take to us. Go to God. Write your thoughts down. Pray to him. Right? I want you to notice that David doesn't go and start trying to seek revenge. He doesn't go pick up his sword. You know, he's a mighty man of valor, a mighty man of war. He could find his way out of there, go to the king, Saul, and kill him, strike him down, get his revengeance right there. He can do all of that. David has that kind of ability. He doesn't. David doesn't sit there and complain about how bad he has it. Oh, look at me. My father doesn't like me. Oh, my brothers don't like me. He doesn't sit there and do that. Oh, look at them. They're laughing at me. Saul, my father-in-law, is trying to kill me. He doesn't sit and just wallow in his self-pity. Even though he's had several attempts at his life, he's been betrayed and overlooked, he turns to God and writes a prayer to God. God, I know you're going to deliver me. You have delivered me time after time after time after time. I know you're going to deliver me. And he turns to God. He doesn't seek that revengeance. He only seeks the help of God. He only seeks refuge in God. And I want you to notice that little part there. He's like, but in verse 11, kill them not. How many of us would be in that situation? God, I want you to strike Saul down. I want all these men who are lined up against me. Strike all of them down. Strike them all down. Just go ahead. God can do it. He knows God can do it. God helped him kill Goliath. He doesn't. He says, kill them not, so that they don't forget that it's your power that brings them down. He has complete faith that God will deliver him. Complete faith. And even though these people are looking to take his life, Saul's not looking to take their life. Saul wants God to, or not Saul, David wants God to deliver him from these people without taking their lives. And we know the story, if you've read it, you know he slips out and he runs away and he starts hiding in the wilderness and basically becomes an outcast. And God delivers him. So I'm going to ask you tonight, who is it that you turn to when you're going through it? When everybody is against you, seemingly everyone is against you, your back is against the wall, people are laughing at you, maybe you lost your job and your job is against you, people are laughing at you, mocking you, maybe your family doesn't like you, they think you've done horrible things, they're aligned against you. Who is it that you turn to when you think that no one loves you? When you think they're all mocking and laughing at you? Do you sit and do you pity yourself? Do you try to seek revenge? Maybe you try to plot like Saul did and try to have evil things happen to these people. This morning we sang a song, and I wish I could have told Dathan and Brandon to switch their invitation songs, but we sang, "Where Could I Go But Jesus" as the invitation song this morning. And I was sitting there singing it and I'm like, man, that's a perfect song for tonight. But where can you go but Jesus? When everybody is against you, where is it that you can go but Jesus? It's the only place we can turn. It's the only place we can go is to turn to God. We know he can, you know he can deliver you. He delivered David out of the mouth of lions, bears. He delivered David from the strength, terrifying size of Goliath. Little shepherd boy kills Goliath. God did that. God delivered him. Take a page from David. Write a book. Or not write a book. Write a prayer. If you have enough time, go ahead and write a booklet. Write a prayer. Write a little poem. Maybe that's not your thing. Grab a songbook. Sing a hymn. When you're feeling down, people are against you, get the songbook out. Sing a hymn. It'll make you feel better, I promise you. Right? Maybe that's not your thing. Get your Bible out. Read your favorite passages. Pick out some passages. Turn to God, whether it's reading the Bible, whether it's singing songs, or whether it's writing a prayer or just praying. Turn to God whenever you're having these issues. Seek the comfort of God, knowing that His words, His strength, His love will deliver you. It's only in His sheltering arms that we are delivered, that we have refuge. It's only in faith in God. Where else would we go but God? We have the example, the wonderful, amazing example of Jesus. See, Jesus has enemies lined up against him everywhere. They got him up on the cross. I don't know why that automatically went there. They got him lined up on the cross, dying, killing him. 3 days later, God delivers him. See, that is where we have our salvation from. That is where we have grace, mercy, and love poured out onto us. Perhaps you are here tonight in need. You have people lined up against you, laughing at you, mocking you, hopefully not trying to kill you. But you need God, and you're wondering how to turn to God. You need the prayers of this congregation because you're going through it, and you need us. You need God. In just a second, we're going to sing an invitation song. I beg of you, if you need our help, go to Dan, go to the elders, go to anybody here. Ask us, come forward, ask us for help. If you need God's salvation and His grace, and you haven't been giving your life to God, seek the help. Ask us questions. How can you do that? How can I go to God? How can I turn to Him? What can I do? We're here for you. God is here to deliver you. He is here to give you refuge. He is here to be your fortress. So if you're in need of any kind of help tonight, please come forward and stand as we sing.
Have your heart and spirit.